So, hi, I'm here with Autin Michel this afternoon, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his business. Autin, do you want to just give us a little bit of some background about your business?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually started Jimaco Farms about 7 months ago, roughly. I started as a chef. I went to culinary school, all that. And then right before COVID hit, I became a butcher. And then this led me into this journey, of course, on food, which kind of led me into seeing all these problems within food systems and whatnot. And I decided that I wanted to take a shot at seeing if I could maybe take a little fix at what I thought could be fixed. And then I started Jimaco Farms, which is right now, actually, we do canned and baked goods that are all locally sourced here in Ontario. It's all sustainably packaged and handmade.
Wow, that's amazing. So is this a home-based business or what happens?
Yeah, so right now it is a home-based business. I'm trying to communicate. It's kind of hard with COVID, but I'm trying to get into a kitchen maybe so I could rent some space so we could try to expand on things. And that's kind of also why there's a limitation, obviously, with bylaws and stuff. So I can only do canned goods and baked goods. But I definitely plan on expanding in the years to come, try to get a kitchen and try to do more things. Because like I said, I have a culinary background. So I'd love to be able to explore other options.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it's unfortunate with COVID, right? Because there would have been community kitchens
Exactly.
Industrial kitchens that you could have used, but now we find ourselves here. So that's really tough in terms of starting a business like this. So,
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your motivation? What makes you want to do this business?
There is a couple different things. I'd say for one, I kind of touched on the last. I just working in the industry. I've been in the industry probably about 7 years, coming out of culinary school. And I just found there's a lot of places where I think from where food starts to where a consumer actually gets it, there's a lot of gaps where people don't actually get to see it. And I think that people need a lot more of education. So that's kind of one of the biggest bases of Jimaco Farms is really educating the customer and trying to show them the benefits of eating local and what actually you consume makes a big difference in your body, right? So that's kind of, I'd say, the big motivation is just obviously I can't fix everything in the food system, but I can play a small part. And I'd say that's probably what motivates me.
Okay. So tell me about the name. Why'd you choose Jimaco
Jimaco Farms? So actually it's kind of a funny story. When I was a kid, I had my older brother, his name was Mike. So we used to call him Mike Jones, which at the time is, I'm not sure if you know, but it was a rapper at the time.
Okay.
And there was another rapper named Jim Jones. So I got the name Jim Jones because he was Mike Jones. So that led me into being called Jimmy. My family still calls me Jimmy to this day, even though it has nothing to do because obviously my name's Autin. But so that led me when I was about 10 or 12. I said I was going to jokingly say I was going to open a company called Jimaco, and I was gonna make spicy ketchup because I thought that was what needed to be on the market. So when this came, obviously years later, I thought, well, what am I going to name this, right? And I was like, well, Jimmy stuck with me and Jimaco stuck with me, so I might as well name it Jimaco.
Cool. So yeah, it's not just spicy ketchup is what you're telling me. There's more to it than that.
Definitely more to it than that.
So tell me a little bit about what customers would love about your business. What really attracts customers?
I would say kind of what sets us apart is one, I'm sure is with COVID, I would say a lot too. People are kind of getting more into the small batch made things, and it being locally sourced, I would definitely say is probably the biggest thing that leads people towards us, because if it's not made in Ontario or coming from Ontario, then I'm not going to source it. And I try to keep things at quite an affordable price because obviously all ages are allowed, but I'm really trying to focus on the younger age group. So obviously they're not always going to have the highest incomes. So compared to other brands that are out, I have a lower price so I can kind of reach those people just so they can get into the market in general. Because like I said, for education, I kind of think that it's important that people start somewhere. And I would love for you to start with Jimaco Farms and grow and kind of get into the whole part and see all the local movement.
Cool. So what's your greatest challenge been up to this point? It's only 7 months. I get that, but what's
I would say the greatest challenge was probably right in the beginning. I didn't realize because of COVID how hard it was going to be to source some of this product.
Mm,
Because obviously before COVID, I could contact farmers. I did all this research, but the problem is farmers don't really want you going from there, especially like when I live in Toronto, they don't want me coming from the big city and going to their farm to source these products. I mean,
right.
luckily farmers markets and stuff were still open. So a lot of it was just kind of, I couldn't get the amount of product and all the things that I wanted. But you know, you have to adapt. That's part of business. So that was kind of the thing. It was a little challenging. I just had to like move as we kind of went. Whatever was going to come in, whatever we could get, we adapted from there and made different recipes and different products.
Interesting. Okay. So do you live in East York? Like,
Yeah, I live in East York. I live right off of Victoria Park in St. Clair.
okay.
But
Yeah.
I grew up actually like right at Coxwell and Gerrard for majority of my life. And I've moved around a little bit, but it's basically been East York or East End of Toronto pretty much my whole life. I was raised there.
Yeah. So what do you like about East York? What do you like about this part of the
I
city?
would say I tried to move to the West End for a little bit.
Yeah.
I could not do it. I didn't think it was going to be such a huge difference, but I think there's just a certain like, I don't know how to describe it, but there's just a certain attitude that comes around. And I feel like people are definitely like easygoing and more welcome. I guess it's like, I'd say sense of community, I think is like the word that I'm really looking for. It's just everything about you. And I think even it's funny now that when I went into the workforce, when somebody comes from the same areas that I come from, you can tell right away just from like seeing them. Then I'm like, oh, you're from this area, aren't you? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. I think that's wild. So you've been here most of your life. So tell me,
Yep.
what do you like to do in the neighborhood when things are open? What are your favorite restaurants? What are your favorite
Okay.
places to go?
Favorite restaurants, I'd say, well, I'm quite big on Greek food, so I'd say Square
Okay.
Boys is definitely a big one for me. I grew up, I went to Danforth Tech was the high school I went to, so about
Okay.
multiple times in a week we were going to go to Square Boys, and I think for anybody that's definitely a spot that they need to check out. There's also a really good place right around there. It's called North Pole Pizza. It's a
Okay.
couple of older, like I would say, like Greek grandmas in there, and they're not always maybe the friendliest to you, but you go in there and they have definitely the best slices of pizza you're gonna get.
Okay. I'm writing this down. If I'm looking
Okay.
over here, I'm writing
No,
it
no,
down.
no worries, no worries.
So, uh, so why do you think it's important for people to shop locally? And I mean, I get it, you're all of Ontario, but you know, you're also running your business in East York. So,
I would say there's probably multiple points to that question for me.
yeah.
I think as far as basis of you could talk about the effects on the environment that we actually have. And I think that's something that moving forward, I'd like to try to educate my customer bases a bit more. Because like, obviously when it comes to people saying, a lot of it I find is people are like, don't eat this because it's bad. Oh, sorry, just one sec. The cat.
No problem.
She's a little needy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say probably one of it is, like I said, like when people say just don't eat this because it's bad, but they don't realize that it's kind of hard for a mass basis for everybody to just stop eating it. Maybe you and me, I might stop eating it, but you can't get an entire customer or entire consumer to stop that. So I
Right.
think that if people realize that if you eat locally, you're actually helping out the environment quite a bit, because there's not going to
Yeah.
be as much as gas, all this kind of things, right? And the other part of that, to like kind of like add on to that, is I think people don't realize the nutrition of a lot of the fruit and veggies that they're actually getting. Like every day that it's off of a vine or a tree or whatever we're saying,
Right.
there's about 5 to 10% of the nutrition is actually lost. So
Wow.
if you're talking about something, let's say you buy tomatoes in the winter, right? So these probably came from California or Mexico, somewhere over there. They had to be picked very, very green, so they're not ripe. So there's actually a low nutrition base in there. And then they're shipped all the way to us. And by the time you get it, it's already tasting bland, but it's obviously probably has 50 or less of the nutrient bases that you get if you were to buy an Ontario tomato. So I think that's the other big basis, is people think, and that's something that I learned as a chef, and I took a basic nutrition course while I was in culinary school. But
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that people don't understand, is by the time a lot of that food actually gets into your plate, the nutritional value is very low. And sometimes you're just basically eating empty carbs because there's no nutritional value of what you're eating. So eating local is supportive in, honestly, the economy, the environment and also your health.
Your
in general,
health.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, interesting. So you're a butcher and you run
Yeah.
this business. What else do you do in your spare time?
Well, I actually am currently taking some farming courses. I'm
Okay.
hoping we'll see what's going on with COVID, but I have a farming internship with a farm called Wheelbarrow Farm, just in
Cool.
Durham region.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of catching up a little bit on that. And then other than that, I mean, I have a couple hobbies. I definitely cook quite a bit because, like I said, that's kind of turned into more of my passion now. That's not my job, but very into plants in general. I probably have too many house plants, I'd say. And I also am into like aquariums and stuff like that. Kind of all things nature based, I'd say.
Yeah. Sounds really interesting. So does your business have anything special going on right now that you would want your customers to know about?
Actually, yeah. So probably I'd say within the next week from when we're recording this, I actually have a second drop that I'm actually ever doing is about to come out. So basically how I usually do it is we'll accumulate all the items from what's in seasonal and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then we'll do a drop. So this is going to be the second drop that I did because the first one was spring and summer items.
Sure.
So yeah, within about a week, it's going to be up on my website, the Jimico Farms, and all the products is going to be out for sale.
Okay, so I mean, and you can send me this stuff by email, but give me all your socials, right? Your website, your Facebook,
So
whatever you got.
so
And we'll add it to the conversation with the interview. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But generally, what's the best way for customers to contact you? Through the
I'd
website?
say probably the best way would be on Instagram. That I would say that's probably where we're most active. As like you can always just kind of DM us a question. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. But I'd say that's probably the easiest. There is also on my site, there is like you can leave comments and send messages. Yeah. Or you could also email me at the Jimico Farms Gmail. But I'd say probably if you're looking for a fast response, I would just go through Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody's got a different way. So yeah. I know it's true. And it's worth asking because really you never know what's the best way for people to get in contact.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's probably a lot of it's like personality based, I'd say, right? Like
yeah. And it's kind of what your product is too. Like, cause you got fresh stuff, so it's great to take pictures of it for Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not so exciting. Some other things you do, it doesn't make as great an Instagram feed.
Yeah.
So if somebody was to ask you for advice today about how to go about finding the thing they should be doing in life, the passion they have for their life, what advice would you give them?
I would say probably the best advice I ever got and what kind of led me on the path I'm on is that life is a marathon and not a race. And it's okay to take your time. And I think that's quite true. I think a lot of people rush, and especially younger people, you rush into something, they go to college or you go to university for something that you might not quite be into. And I think if you just slow down, like if you just, I like to say like, live slow, grow fast kind of thing. Because if you just take your time, or if you just place one brick every single day and focus on placing one brick, when you look up, the wall will be built of whatever you're trying to do.
Very cool. So when you're not cooking and you're not working, is there other places, not restaurants so much, that you like to go in East York?
Yeah, there's a couple different places that I'd say I'd like to go. I mean, I have, like I said, I'm into plants. There's a couple flower shops in the area that I definitely frequent quite a bit, maybe a little too much. There's one at Coxwell and Gerard.
Okay.
And I believe it's called Mama's Flowers. She's the sweetest lady in there. Anything that you might need, she'll order it for you or anything like that. And there's also a really good butcher shop down at Coxwell Gerard called Sanigan's Meat Locker.
Okay.
Yeah. And they do only Ontario products. So all the meats coming out of there, it's all whole animal butchery. They have a very nice charcuterie section. It's all French classical stuff. And I mean, I definitely frequent in there as well. Probably too much, but yeah.
So we have a lot of themes of probably too much here for you. Okay. No problem. So anything else you think we need to know about Jimico Farms?
I would say not too much. I would say probably in the upcoming this year, I have a couple plans of I'm trying to add a little bit more of a social media presence, and I'm looking into maybe doing some videos, the educational videos, adding more of the my cooking side into it. So maybe doing some recipe videos to launch with the product. So every single time we launch a product, say like this time I have salsas and stuff like that. So then we'll do how to make a nacho video to come across with that. And I think like moving into the long term, I would like to kind of attach more recipes to the product. So it's just easier. You don't have to think about it. Cause like I said, sometimes seasonally, maybe if you're not really the biggest foodie or something, there might be things that you don't quite understand. What am I going to do with this product? So if I'm just trying to attach more information with it.
That sounds great. That sounds really good. Well, I want to like thank you so much for talking.
No, thank you. Honestly,
I think it's really great, and you'll be able to put more information on the site if that's what you choose to do.
Okay.
And I've got some great pictures already, so we'll put those together. And thanks so much.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.